The sun had set 3 hours ago at the training center on the planet. The center was a massive building made of metal and stone. It stood in the middle of a flat desert where nothing grew. Inside, machines buzzed and hummed with electricity. Screens showed numbers and graphs. Scientists from 10 different alien species watched from behind glass windows. They all came to see what would happen today. Ambassador Hayes walked into the observation room. His feet were heavy, his heart was tight in his chest. He knew what was coming. He knew that humans had never been tested in the gravity chamber before. He knew that every other species had failed. Some had lasted only minutes. The best had survived 30 minutes. After that, their bodies could not hold on anymore. Their bones broke. Their organs stopped working. They died. The gravity chamber was on the lower level. It was round and made of the strongest metal in the known galaxy. Thick cables ran from the chamber up through the ceiling. Those cables connected to machines that could control gravity. The machines could make gravity 2 times stronger, 3 times stronger, 4 times stronger. They could crush anything into nothing. Looked down through the glass, he saw the chamber clearly. Inside, 5 humans stood in suits. The suits had sensors all over them. Those sensors would measure everything: heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen levels, bone density, everything. Lieutenant Maya stood in the center of the chamber. She was tall and strong. Her dark hair was pulled back tight. Her face was calm. Behind her stood Brown, King, Corinne Davis, and Sophie Martinez. They were soldiers. They were scientists. They were brave. Maya looked up at the observation window. She could not see clearly, but she knew he was there. She gave a small nod. She was ready. Commander was the in charge, were tall and blue. They had 4 arms. They had scales on their skin. They had lived for thousands of years. They had visited 100 worlds. They had tested hundreds of species, had run the gravity chamber tests for 40 years. He had never seen a species survive very long. Stood at the control panel. His 4 hands moved over the buttons. Around him, 20 technicians watched. Some of them had never seen humans before. They had heard stories. Humans were small. Humans were weak. Humans came from a world with less gravity than most planets. How could such a weak species survive? Activated the chamber. The lights inside turned red. The machines began to hum. The gravity started to increase. 1 time Earth's normal gravity, 2 times, 3 times. Maya felt it immediately. Her legs became heavy. Her arms felt like they were made of metal. Each movement became harder. Breathing became harder. The weight was pushing down on every part of her body. It was like someone had put a car on top of her, then another car, then another. His face turned red. His breathing grew loud. The sensors showed that his heart rate was climbing fast. Corinne bit her lip. Sophie closed her eyes, was sweating. The sweat ran down his face in rivers. The gravity kept climbing. 4 times Earth normal. 5 times. The chamber walls shook a little. The cables above shook too. In the observation room, the other scientists began to make notes. They had seen this before. This was the beginning of the end. In a few more minutes, the humans would start to cry. They would ask to stop. They would beg to be let out. Then they would fail. But Maya did not cry. She did not ask for help. She simply stood there. Her teeth were clenched. Her eyes were focused. She looked straight up at the observation window where she knew was watching. She looked angry, not angry at the gravity, angry at the pain, angry at anything that tried to stop her. Saw this, he saw that Maya was fighting, so he fought too. His legs bent a little, but they did not break. His breathing was hard, but it did not stop, stood next to him. Corinne did the same. Sophie moved closer to them. They were 5 humans standing together. They were small compared to the chamber. They were weak compared to the gravity, but they were together. His eyes became narrow. This was not normal. The humans should be failing by now. Their sensors showed pain. Their sensors showed stress. But their sensors also showed something else. Their sensors showed that the humans were not quitting. The gravity reached 6 times Earth normal. The weight was enormous. It was like standing under water at the bottom of an ocean. It was like having 10 humans sitting on top of each body. It was like the whole world was trying to crush them into nothing. Maya's legs shook. Her breath came in short gasps, but she was still standing, was still standing, was still standing. Corinne was still standing. Sophie was still standing. Did something he had never done before. He asked a question into the speaker that went into the gravity chamber. His voice was loud and cold and hard. It was the question that every species heard when they came to the chamber. How long before your species breaks? The question hung in the air. The gravity continued. The machines continued. The world continued to crush down. Maya heard the question. She felt the weight. She felt the pain that was now in every bone and every muscle. She looked up at the observation window. She opened her mouth, and she smiled. She smiled because she knew the answer. She smiled because humans did not break easily. She smiled because she came from a world that tried to kill humans every single day. A world with storms that could destroy cities. A world with animals that could tear humans apart. A world that was always hungry and always trying to end human life. And humans had survived that world. Humans had built cities. Humans had learned. Humans had thrived. Humans had become strong. The gravity could try to crush her. They could ask their questions. But a human from Earth had learned long ago how to keep going when everything said stop. How to breathe when everything said suffocate. How to live when everything said die. Maya did not answer his question with words. She answered with her body. She stood up. She took a deeper breath. Her feet stayed firm on the ground. Saw this. Karen saw this. Sophie saw this. And they all did the same. In the observation room, leaned back from the control panel. For the first time in 40 years, he was surprised. The gravity chamber had never seen anything like this. The humans were not breaking. They were not even close to breaking. They were enduring. They were fighting back against the gravity itself. One of the scientists turned too. The scientist's 4 eyes were wide. "Your species," the scientist said. "Where do they come from?" Answered simply, "From a world that wanted to destroy them, and they refused to let it." Machines kept running. The gravity kept climbing. 8 times Earth normal, then 9 times. The chamber had never pushed this far with any other species. They had always stopped before this point. They knew that no body could handle more, but was curious now. He wanted to see where the human limit actually was. Maya felt each new increase in her bones. It was like someone was stacking more and more concrete blocks on top of her. Her legs trembled. Her arms felt numb. The pain was everywhere, but something inside her refused to let her fall. She had trained her entire life for moments like this. The military had shown her how to push through pain, but this was different. This was pain like she had never felt before. Was breathing hard. His face was purple from the effort. He looked at Maya. She was still standing, still fighting. He remembered something his commander had told him years ago. A creature does not give up. It adapts, it survives, it evolves. Humans came from Earth did not care if you were tired. Earth did not care if you were hurt. Earth killed anything that could not keep going, so humans had learned. They had learned to keep going even when their bodies screamed to stop. They had learned to breathe even when the air was poison. They had learned to move even when every muscle was broken. Turn to, "We are from a world," said his voice rough and hard, "that never stopped trying to kill us. This is just another test. This is just gravity. Gravity never gave us mercy. Gravity always tried to crush us. We lived anyway." Heard this, understood. He had grown up on Earth too. He had felt storms that could kill him. He had seen animals that wanted his blood. He had learned that survival meant not surrendering. He nodded. He stood. Karen heard's words. She had studied about the human body. She knew the science. The human body was not designed for this. The human body should fail. But Karen also knew something else. The human mind could force the human body to do impossible things. Pain was just a message. Fear was just a feeling. Neither one was stronger than the will to survive. Sophie started to count. She counted seconds out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Her voice was thin and weak, but it was there. Counting gave her mind something to focus on. It was not the pain. It was not the weight. It was just numbers. Numbers were simple. Numbers did not hurt. The machines continued. The gravity reached 10 times Earth normal. An alarm sounded in the control room. Red lights flashed. One of the technicians called out that this was dangerous. The gravity was now at the absolute maximum safe level. If they pushed any higher, the chamber itself might break. The metal might crack. The humans might be crushed into nothing. But the humans were still standing. Did not stop the gravity. He increased it to 10.5 times Earth normal. The absolute maximum. The danger zone. The point where no species had ever survived. Maya's vision began to blur. Black spots appeared around the edges. She knew what this meant. Her brain was not getting enough blood. Her heart was working so hard that it might stop. She could die right here, right now, in this moment. But she also knew something else. Human brains were strange things. They had evolved to survive impossible situations. When the body was in mortal danger, the brain released chemicals that blocked pain. The brain could force the body to do things that seemed impossible. The brain could keep the heart beating even when the heart wanted to stop. Moved next to Maya. His arm touched her arm. He could not hold her up. He was too weak for that, but he could be next to her. He could show her that she was not alone, did the same on her other side. Karen and Sophie moved closer. They made a circle. 5 humans, one group, together. The sensors in the suits showed strange things now. Each human's heart rate was at the absolute maximum, over 200 beats per minute. Their blood pressure was climbing dangerously high. Their muscles were producing acid that burned. Their bones were bending under the weight. Everything said that they should be dead. But they were not dead. They were alive, they were conscious, they were standing. One of the scientists turned away from the observation window. He could not watch anymore. He was amazed, he was confused, he was scared. In all of his studies of life in the galaxy, he had never seen anything like this. The humans were not supposed to survive, but they were. 15 minutes had passed since the gravity reached maximum. Checked the records. The previous record was 30 minutes. That was set by a species called the were enormous creatures with bones made of diamond. They were designed for high-gravity worlds. They had lasted 30 minutes. Then they had collapsed. Then they had died. The humans had only been under maximum gravity for 15 minutes. They had not collapsed. They had not died. They were still breathing. They were still fighting. His 4 hands moved over the control panel. He reduced the gravity slightly. It dropped to 9 times Earth normal. The relief was immediate. All 5 humans gasped. They took deeper breaths. Their hearts slowed down a little. The black spots left Maya's vision. Her body was still in agony, but at least she could see again. "Continue the test," said to his technicians. "I want to know how long they can last." The observation room became quiet. Every scientist watched the 5 humans. Every heart rate was measured. Every breath was counted. The gravity did not increase anymore, but it did not decrease either. It stayed at 9 times Earth normal, crushing, brutal, unforgiving. But the humans endured. 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. The previous record had just been broken. No species had ever lasted this long under maximum gravity. The humans had broken the record, but they showed no signs of stopping. They were not collapsed. They were not dying. They were simply standing there, holding each other and refusing to quit. Sophie stopped counting. She looked at Maya. Maya looked back. No words needed to pass between them. They understood. They were human. This was what humans did. They survived. They persisted. They never gave up. 1 hour had passed. The gravity chamber had never run this long. The machines that produced the gravity had never worked this hard. Some of the technicians wanted to stop the test. They were afraid that the machines would break. They were afraid that something would go wrong, but would not allow them to stop. "Let them continue," he said. "I need to understand this." Inside the chamber, Maya's mind had changed. The pain had become so intense that it had transformed into something else. It was no longer pain. It was just the way things were. Her body was heavy. The world was pressing down. This was her reality now. She had stopped fighting against it. She had accepted it. This was where she was. This was what she was enduring, and she could endure it because she was human. Her vision had become strange. The edges were dark. The center was clear but distant. It was like she was watching her own body from far away. She could see her arms, she could see her legs, she could see them standing there, but she could not quite feel them anymore. The pain had numbed everything. Had learned something new. He had learned that the human body could do strange things when the mind refused to surrender. His legs were not working correctly anymore. They were locked in place by his own muscles. He could not move them if he wanted to, but they were holding him up. They were keeping him standing. The body had stopped listening to the brain and had started doing what was necessary to survive. Was singing, not out loud, not in words, just a humming sound that came from deep in his chest. It was a sound that humans had made for thousands of years, a sound that helped them work, a sound that helped them endure. His grandfathers had made this sound. His grandmothers had made this sound. Now he was making it in a gravity chamber on an alien world, but it was the same sound. It was the sound of human persistence. Karen's eyes were open but not focused. She was thinking about her daughter. Her daughter was back on Earth. Her daughter was 7 years old. Her daughter was waiting for her to come home. Karen did not know if she would ever see her daughter again, but she knew that if she quit now, her daughter would grow up knowing that her mother had given up. Karen would not let that happen. She stood because of her daughter. She endured because of her daughter. Sophie was still counting. She had reached 3,000 seconds. That was almost an hour. She kept counting. 3,001, 3,002. The numbers gave her mind something to hold on to. As long as she could count, she could think. As long as she could think, she was alive. As long as she was alive, there was hope. The gravity stayed at 9 times Earth normal. It did not increase. It did not decrease. It just continued. The machines hummed. The cables held. The weight pressed down. The chamber was now a prison. but it was a prison that 5 humans refused to escape from. 45 minutes. The technicians were making records. This was historic. This had never happened before. One of the scientists was shaking. He had spent his entire career studying life in the galaxy. He had always believed that humans were weak. Now he was watching humans do the impossible. In the observation room was talking to. "My people come from a world that kills almost everything," said. "We evolved to survive. We have high gravity. We have storms that can destroy cities. We have animals that hunt us. We have diseases that spread quickly. We have heat. We have cold. We have rain that falls so hard it can cut skin. My ancestors did not survive because they were strong. They survived because they refused to die. This test is nothing. This is just physics. My people have been fighting gravity for millions of years." Turn to look at. Those 4 eyes showed something new. It was not fear, it was respect. 1 hour and 15 minutes. The previous record was 30 minutes. The humans had passed the record by more than double. No species had ever lasted this long. The machines were starting to show signs of strain. The cables were hot. The cooling systems were working overtime, but still the gravity held. Still the humans stood. Maya realized something important in her distant mind. She was not thinking about pain anymore. She was not thinking about the weight. She was thinking about home. She was thinking about Earth. She was thinking about all the humans who had come before her. All the humans who had survived ice ages, all the humans who had crossed oceans, all the humans who had fought against nature itself and won. She was standing on their shoulders. She was carrying their strength. Looked at Maya, he could see something in her face. She was no longer struggling. She had moved past struggle. She had reached a place of pure will, no pain, no doubt, just determination. Did the same, he let go of the struggle. He accepted the weight. He let his body do what it needed to do. His humming grew louder. Karen opened her eyes fully and focused on Sophie. Sophie was still counting, still standing, still alive. They were still here, all 5 of them, still fighting. 2 hours, the observation room was silent. Every scientist was watching. Every machine was recording. The gravity chamber continued, and the humans continued. Made a decision. He reduced the gravity to 8 times Earth normal, just 3 hours into the test. The gravity chamber had now operated for 3 hours straight. No alarm had sounded. No human had collapsed. No death had occurred. The machines kept running. The gravity stayed at 8 times Earth normal, and the 5 humans remained conscious and alive. News of the test was spreading through the training center. Scientists from other species were arriving at the observation window. They wanted to see this for themselves. They wanted to witness what everyone was talking about, humans in the gravity chamber, lasting longer than any species in history. The impossible was happening in real time. Maya was sitting on the ground now. Her suit was wet with sweat. Her muscles ached in every fiber, but her mind was clear, clearer than it had ever been. She had moved past pain. She had moved past fear. She had entered a place where the body and mind were separated. The body was a machine that did what needed to be done. The mind was free to watch and observe and understand. She thought about her mother. Her mother had given birth to her in a hospital on Earth. The hospital had not had enough medicine. The birth had been hard. Her mother had screamed for hours. She could have given up. She could have let nature take its course and died. But she had pushed through the pain. She had refused to quit. And Maya was born because her mother refused to surrender to the suffering. This test was just gravity. Her mother had endured childbirth. Childbirth was pain. Childbirth was the body being torn open. Childbirth was the definition of unbearable. If her mother could do that, Maya could stand in a gravity chamber for 3 hours. Was thinking about his father. His father had been a coal miner. Every day, his father went underground into darkness. The work was hard. The conditions were bad. The danger was real. His father could have chosen an easier life, but he had worked that mine for 40 years because his family needed to eat. He had suffered so that his children could have a better life. This test was nothing compared to his father's sacrifice. Was thinking about his grandfather. His grandfather had been a farmer. The farm had been in the same family for 10 generations. The work never ended. Every season brought new challenges, droughts, floods, pests, disease, animals dying, crops failing. But his grandfather had kept working. He had kept trying. He had refused to let the land beat him. This gravity was just another obstacle, just another test that needed to be passed. Karen was thinking about her time as a doctor. She had worked in hospitals. She had seen people who were dying. She had seen people who were suffering. She had held their hands. She had told them to keep fighting, to stay strong, to not give up. How could she tell people to fight if she quit now? How could she stand in front of a patient and demand their courage if she did not show her own? Sophie was thinking about history. She was a historian. She studied human civilization. She studied all the ways that humans had faced impossible odds and survived. Humans had survived ice ages. Humans had crossed deserts. Humans had crossed oceans in boats made of wood. Humans had discovered medicine and electricity in flight. All of these things were impossible, but humans had done them anyway, because humans did not believe in the word impossible. They only believed in the word next. What is next? What comes after? How do we keep going? The gravity chamber remained steady. The machines remained steady. The test continued. 4 hours. The council had been informed. They were discussing what this meant for human status in the coalition of worlds. Up until today, humans had been considered a young species, valuable but not exceptional, but this changed everything. This proved that humans had something that no other species possessed. They had endurance. They had will. They had something in their spirit that refused to break. Was making notes. He had been the commander for 40 years. He had tested hundreds of species. He had seen many impressive achievements, but nothing like this. These 5 humans had broken every record. They had done the impossible, and they were not even showing signs of stopping. An official from the council entered the observation room. His name was Administrator Vex. He was very old and very powerful. He looked down at the 5 humans in the gravity chamber. He looked at the readings on the screens. Then he looked at. "End the test," Vex said. "We have seen enough. The humans have proven themselves." But Maya heard this. Her mind was clear. Her ears were working. She pressed a button on her suit. A communication signal went up to the observation room. "No," she said. Her voice was quiet but strong. "We want to continue. We want to know how far we can go." The observation room became silent. An official order from the council had just been refused. A human had refused. No species ever refused the council. It was not done. It was unthinkable. But the humans had just done it. Vex looked at the gravity chamber. Maya was looking back up at the observation window. Her eyes were focused. Her face was clear. She was not asking permission. She was stating her intention. The humans would continue. "Let them continue," Vex said. He understood something in that moment. Humans were different. Humans played by different rules. Humans did not follow the same patterns as other species. Humans were unique, and that uniqueness was valuable. 4 hours and 30 minutes. Began to speak. His voice was rough from not speaking, but his words were clear. "We are from a world called Earth," he said. "In the language of Earth there is a word. The word is endure. It means to continue, to persist, to refuse to stop even when everything says to stop." He paused. He looked at each of his team members. "We endure," he said. Repeated the words, "We endure." Karen repeated, "We endure." Sophie repeated, "We endure." Maya looked up at the observation window. She repeated, "We endure." The phrase echoed in the gravity chamber. We endure. It was simple. It was powerful. It was the definition of what humans did. 5 hours. The machines had been running for 5 hours. The gravity chamber had never been used this long. The technicians were checking the cooling systems every few minutes. The machines were hot. The cables were strained, but nothing had failed. The test continued. And the humans continued. 5 hours and 15 minutes. 5 hours and 30 minutes. 5 hours and 45 minutes. The humans were still alive, still conscious, still standing together, still enduring. An announcement went through the training center. News channels picked up the story. Scientists across multiple worlds were watching. The test that was supposed to end in human failure was becoming the test that proved human superiority, not in technology, not in military strength, but in 6 hours and 30 minutes. The test had been running for 6.5 hours, 7 hours. The machines were showing signs of serious strain now. The cooling systems were at maximum capacity. One of the technicians warned that the machines might break if the test continued much longer, but did not stop the test. Neither did Vex. "Let them run," Vex said. "We will replace the machines if necessary. This moment is more important than machines." 7 hours and 15 minutes. Maya was barely moving now. Her body had used up most of its energy reserves. She was running on pure will, pure determination. Her muscles were not shaking anymore because they had no energy left to shake. She simply stood. She simply breathed. She simply refused to fall. Had stopped thinking. His mind was empty. There was no past. There was no future. There was only this moment, this gravity, this pressure, this test. His body knew what to do. His body had learned it millions of years ago from his ancestors. His body would stand. His body would breathe, his body would survive. Was smiling, not a happy smile, a smile of pure defiance. He was smiling at the gravity, he was smiling at the machines, he was smiling at anyone who had ever said that humans were weak. This was his answer, this was his proof. Humans did not break, humans endured. Karen had her eyes closed. She was visualizing her daughter. She was imaging teaching her daughter about this day. She was imagining telling her daughter that her mother had stood in a gravity chamber for 7 hours because she refused to quit. She was imagining her daughter being proud of her. That image was stronger than the gravity. That image was stronger than anything. Sophie had started counting again. She was counting the seconds since the gravity chamber had started. Over 25,000 seconds. Over 7 hours. She was counting the fact that every second that passed, they set a new record. Every breath was a victory. Every heartbeat was a triumph. The observation window was packed now. Scientists from every species had come. They were witnessing history. They were watching 5 humans do something that was scientifically impossible. The human body was not designed for 8 times Earth normal gravity for 7 hours. The human body should have failed multiple times. But the human body kept working. The human spirit kept fighting. Vex was writing a formal recommendation. He was writing that humans should be given the highest status in the coalition of worlds. He was writing that humans possessed qualities that other species needed. He was writing that humans were more valuable than they had ever understood. An alert sounded. One of the machines had overheated. It was making strange noises. One of the technicians called out that it might break in the next few minutes, looked at Vex. Vex looked at the gravity chamber. The 5 humans were still standing, still breathing, still enduring. "Begin the shutdown sequence," Vex said. "The test is over." The gravity began to decrease. 7 times Earth normal, 6 times, 5 times, 4 times, 3 times, 2 times, 1 time, and then the gravity was back to normal. The 5 humans collapsed. They fell to the ground all at once. Their bodies could no longer support their own weight. The test was over. They had lasted 7 hours and 20 minutes. No species in history had ever lasted more than 30 minutes. The humans had lasted 14 times longer. Medical teams rushed into the chamber. They lifted the 5 humans carefully. They put them on medical platforms. They took them to the medical facility in the training center. Every sensor said the same thing. The humans were alive, battered, exhausted, broken in small ways, but alive. Maya regained consciousness first. She was in a medical bed. Her body was covered with sensors. Doctors were watching her. One of the doctors was standing in the medical room. He looked at Maya. "Your heart rate is stable," said. "Your bones are not broken. Your organs are functioning. You have survived something that should have killed you." Maya tried to speak. Her voice was very quiet. "How long?" she asked. 7 hours and 20 minutes, said. "A new record by far." Within the next hour, the other 4 humans woke up. Karen, Sophie, they were all alive. They were all going to recover. The doctors could not explain it. The readings said that the humans should have failed, but they had not. The news spread across the coalition of worlds within minutes. Humans had survived the gravity chamber longer than any species in history. Humans had broken the previous record by more than 14 times. The story was told in 10,000 different ways on 10,000 different worlds. But the basic fact remained the same. Humans could endure. Humans would not break. In the observation room was crying. His people had proven themselves. His people had shown the galaxy what they truly were. Not conquerors, not superior beings, just people who refused to surrender. Vex came to see Maya after she had rested for several hours. He brought another with him. This was the leader of the entire coalition of worlds. His name was Director. He was older than Vex. He had seen empires rise and fall. "Lieutenant Maya," Director said in his deep voice, "the coalition of worlds has made a decision." Maya tried to sit up. She was still weak, but she moved. "I am offering humans full membership in the coalition of worlds," Director said. "Full rights, full protections, full participation in all decisions that affect the galaxy. This offer is open to all humans. This offer is permanent." Maya wanted to say something important. She wanted to say something that captured this moment. But she could only think of one question. The question that had asked her 7 hours ago in the gravity chamber. "What was the question?" Maya asked. Stepped forward, he understood what she was asking. "I asked you how long before your species breaks," said. "At the time, I was certain that you would break quickly. I was certain that I understood the answer. but I was wrong. Looked at Maya with new respect. The correct answer to my question is that your species does not break. Your species is not measured in minutes or hours. Your species is measured in determination. Your species has learned to survive impossible conditions. Your species has learned that surrender is not an option. This is why your species is unbreakable. Maya understood. The whole test had been about that one question: how long before humans break? The answer was never. Humans do not break. Humans endure. Weeks later, the story of the gravity chamber test spread across the entire galaxy. News outlets reported it. Scientists studied it. Young aliens read stories about 5 humans who stood in a crushing gravity chamber and refused to quit. On Earth, the news reached billions of people. Children learned about Maya and Karen and Sophie. They learned about their people's strength. They learned about human endurance. They learned that coming from a harsh world had made humans special, made humans strong, made humans something that the entire galaxy needed to understand and respect. And high in the skies above Earth, the first human ships launched toward the stars. The humans were going to join the coalition of worlds. The humans were going to meet alien species as equals. The humans had proven themselves. It had all started with one simple question, a question meant to break them, a question meant to show their weakness. But instead, that question had revealed the truth. Humans were not weak. Humans were not fragile. Humans had learned to survive, and survival was the strongest power in the universe. Something deeper, in the refusal to quit, in the determination to survive, in the unbreakable human spirit. Vex turned to, "I have made a decision," Vex said. "When this test ends, I am going to recommend to the full council that humans be granted full membership in the coalition of worlds, not as a junior member, not as a provisional member, as a full member with all rights and protections." "Because they survived the gravity chamber?" asked. "No," Vex said. "Because they did more than survive. They endured. They refused to break. They chose to continue when continuation was impossible. That is a quality that the coalition needs. That is a quality that few species possess. Humans possess it naturally. That makes them invaluable." 6 hours. The gravity chamber fell silent except for the sound of machines. The 5 humans stood together. They were no longer in agony. They had moved past agony. They had reached a place of pure existence. They were alive. They were together. They would not quit. And the galaxy watched, and the galaxy understood. Humans were not weak. Humans were not vulnerable. Humans were unstoppable. A small reduction, but enough to let the humans breathe, enough to let their bodies recover slightly. The relief was instant. All 5 humans gasped. Their hearts slowed down. Their muscles stopped shaking so badly. "What are you doing?" one of the scientists asked. "You are making the test easier." "I want them to survive," said. "I want to see how far humans can go. I want to understand what your species truly is." At 8 times Earth normal, the humans began to move slightly. Not much, but small movements. Maya rubbed her face with her hand, changed the position of his feet, sat down on the ground. Karen leaned against the wall. Sophie stopped counting. They had lasted 2 hours under crushing gravity. 2 hours of weight that no other species had survived for more than 30 minutes. 2 hours of endurance that changed everything. The test continued. The machines continued. The gravity held steady. But something had shifted in that observation room. They no longer saw humans as weak creatures. They saw something else. They saw a species that refused to break. They saw a species that had learned to survive the unsurvivable. They saw something that the galaxy had never encountered before. And it terrified them. Because if humans could do this, what else could they do? What other limits could they break? What other records could they shatter? Smiled, his species had just changed everything, and the test was not even over yet. Watched from the observation room, his eyes were wet with tears. His people had done it. They had broken the record. They had proven that humans were not weak. They had proven that humans were strong in ways that the galaxy had never understood. The gravity chamber continued. The machines continued. The test continued. And the 5 humans from Earth simply continued to stand together, enduring the unbearable, because that was what their species had learned to do on a millions of years ago. The gravity climbed higher, 7 times Earth normal. The machines hummed louder. The test had really begun, and no one in that room knew what they were about to witness.